Welcome to episode 3, We Don't Talk About Roscoe, featuring Jennifer Dunn of Coppermine Genealogy. I'm your host, Janet Hall Werner, and this is Black Sheep Family History. Hi, this is Black Sheep Family History, stories of our not-so-illustrious ancestors and how to find them. I'm your host, Janet Hall Werner. I'm a lawyer and I worked as an advocate on Capitol Hill for 25 years until 2016 when I chucked that to pursue my true calling as a professional genealogist. I specialize in finding the stories hidden in the records, as well as DNA, immigration and migration, and research pretty much anywhere east of the Mississippi and some places west. In this series, I'll be talking to other genealogists, as well as telling some of my own black sheep stories that I've uncovered over the years. And if you watch or listen to the end, you'll meet Jane. Jane is my somewhat younger, slightly cuter AI avatar, and she'll be hosting what I'm calling educational extras. These are separate episodes on topics family historians love, things like the history of divorce in America, the history of asylums, bootlegging, stuff like that. Black Sheep Family History is available as a podcast if you're on the go, and it's also on YouTube, where I show you the records and the pictures that go along with the story. Search for and subscribe to Black Sheep Family History wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to my Black Sheep Family History channel on YouTube. New episodes drop on Hump Day with a new story to get you through the rest of the week. And educational extras hosted by Jane drop on Fridays. And if you have a black sheep story about one of your ancestors that you'd like to tell, or you'd like me to tell, or if you need research help, please drop me a note at janet@blacksheepfamhist.com. Today's guest is genealogist Jennifer Dunn of Coppermine Genealogy, who specializes in poor and hard-to-find ancestors, especially Southern ones. And she also specializes in the West family, and she's got a wild tale for us today. We're talking about Roscoe West. 2 marriages, a prison stint, a shakedown connected to a murder case, and a courtroom moment that had everyone clapping. Jennifer, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Janet. I'm so glad to be here and talk about one of my favorite characters from history, Roscoe West.
That's great. We're glad to have you. So this all started with a message from a relative. What did she ask you?
Okay, so I have a blog and I blog about the West family quite a bit. They moved from South Carolina to North Georgia to Arkansas. And so I hear a lot from my Arkansas family for whatever reason, which is really cool, like making a, connection for over the many, many years distant. So yeah, she though just emailed me out of the blue and said, I saw your blog. My grandfather disappeared from the family and I would love to know what happened to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're the go-to person, so for the West family then.
Yeah, just because I have a blog. There are people that know just as much as I do, but since, I have the blog out there, you got to have that cousin bait, and that's how you attract them.
Yep. Yep. And how are you related to Roscoe?
He's about my fifth cousin level, so he's also descended from my fourth great grandfather.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so who was Roscoe? Start at the beginning.
Oh goodness. Okay, so Roscoe, I know that he was born in May, probably May 18th, 1886. Actually, he's very specific about his birth year through all records, which is amazing because so many of them aren't, especially our Southerners. um, in Cherokee County, Georgia, which is where I live now. And his father died a few years later of tuberculosis. And he died in the community, a little tiny community, a couple square miles where I live now. So I think that's another reason I find Roscoe and that whole family so interesting because, I mean, we've walked the same roads. So I'm sure I have been exact places where Roscoe has been.
Right, walking in his footsteps, definitely.
Absolutely.
And what was the first record you found with Roscoe in it?
He was born in 1886. So of course, I don't know what they
Yep.
were up to in 1890. But then in 1900, I find his mother living in still the same area. His dad had died by that point, so she's a widow. She's got a few young children, and Roscoe's living a few houses down on the same census page, but he's living with the West Brooks family, who are no relation to the West, even though the names are similar that
Right.
I know of. And he's 14 years old and he's listed as a laborer in the household. And that's also one of my first clues. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, that did happen. Kids went out to work, especially if the mom was a widow. He was probably trying to help support the family. But there also could have been an element of all right, Roscoe, you're kind of a rascal. We know what's
Right.
happening here. Maybe go live with that family. We can be, kept in hand a little better.
Right. Right. And when do you first see something strange happening with him aside from that census?
Well, so yeah. So then Roscoe, the next time I find him, it is, I believe, 1908, and he marries a woman named Clyde O. Brown, who is the daughter of a merchant from town. They lived about 3 miles outside of town. Now, she does seem to be related or at least affiliated with the Westbrook family, so I'm sure he met her through his job,
Right.
living as a laborer with them. And so that was 1908. And that just brings me to one of the first issues I have with dear sweet Roscoe. He does not want to be found. And interestingly enough, the records his records try to elude and hide from me. So for instance, I do know. I know that Roscoe married Clyde O. Brown, but and there is a marriage license that says RP West. And so, there could be another RP West. So I
Hmm.
wasn't quite sure. But then there's a newspaper article and a marriage announcement that also states that he married Clyde Brown, except for every version I can find is folded over. So you can only see about half of it. And so I've had to
Um,
extrapolate, like he's literally like from the grave, not trying to let me figure out what was going on with his life. But I was able to extrapolate because the other couple mentioned in the marriage record was his sister, and she married just about 3 days later than Roscoe did. And also, Clyde, Roscoe's wife's brother, was the minister who married Roscoe's sister. So that fan club
okay.
research let me know that that's him.
Okay. Right, right, right. Okay, so that was 1908. So did you find him in 1910 in the census?
Oh, I sure did. So, well, I started in Cherokee County, of course, where I thought he would live. That's what you're supposed to do as a good genealogist. And I
Right.
didn't find him. I found his mom, found, found the rest of his family. Some of his brothers and sisters were now married and living away from home. Found his wife and Clyde Brown, and she was living with her brother. And then she was listed as a widow. So, of course, at that
Um,
point, like, oh, Roscoe, oh, I'm so sorry. You've already died. And no. Then I looked at Roscoe's brother's census enumeration in Logan County, Arkansas, and look, there's Roscoe listed as the brother, free as a bird, single, never been married in his life.
Interesting.
Hmm.
So Clyde says she's a widow, but he's still alive, of course.
Of course, yeah. And she also
So,
lived about eight. Clyde lived about 8 doors down from Roscoe's mother. So I wonder if that made for awkward times in the neighborhood.
one would think. Okay, so what happened then?
Well, and I'm going to tell you things a little bit out of order because I'm telling you in
Okay,
the order that I discovered them because I
right,
think for a more compelling story.
sure.
The next time I find Roscoe, he's getting divorced in Oklahoma. So from
Okay.
his getting divorced, I was able to ascertain that he had gotten married at some point. This
So
was
not divorced from Clyde.
no, it's divorced from someone else.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's leaving a trail here.
Yeah.
Getting divorced from a woman named Hattie Gertrude Stanford, who was interesting in her own right. She had grown up on the Muskogee Creek Nation there in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Find their divorce, and so of course the woman that contacted me about him, she was his granddaughter, so he had to have a kid at some point, and this was the mother of
Okay.
his child named Arnold West. Um,
Okay.
so I found the newspaper notice where she had filed for divorce and said she hadn't seen him in a year and they want to get divorced.
Right.
And that's where I
Right.
found him next.
Wow. So he just vanished. He
Yeah,
just,
well,
yeah,
yes,
at
he had
that
just
point.
vanished so far, except, of course, this was about 1918. So you know what was happening then? We were
Yep.
entering World War One.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, the next place to look is obviously his World War One draft card. And
Right.
that's where really closely looking at records pays off. Very faintly on his World War One draft card, where the address is listed, it's a stamp rather than a written address, which I'd never seen before. And it said Missouri State Penitentiary. And that's when I
Wow.
realized, oh, he's living in prison. That's where he is.
Okay. And so what was he in for?
Well, he was in for false pretenses, which I have since searched. I took a class with Judy Russell, who helped me like learn how to search these old timey kind of terms. Um,
Right.
and it's a form of fraud, and it
Okay.
not really clear what form of fraud he could have been. I mean, this was also kind of, if you saw that movie Killers of the Flower Moon or read the book, we're
Right.
in Oklahoma in that time period, Oklahoma, Missouri,
Okay.
that kind of area. I don't think he was, this is a slightly different area, part of the state. But I mean, there was just a lot of, this is before the Depression, this is the
Right.
20s, the teens, there's big oil booms. So, I mean, who knows what he did? He could have frauded people in any number of ways. He could have sold snake oil. Who knows?
Right. 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 Did you find out anything about him in his prison life?
Oh, I was so lucky. So the Missouri Archives, they have a ton of stuff online, and they
Okay.
will also answer your emails so readily and
Wow.
easily, which is wonderful. I work with some archives too, and not because they don't want to. Archivists everywhere I know are always wonderful, but just they're so underfunded that they can't do research
Right.
for you.
Right.
But Missouri will. And so I was able to find his prison record, which I
Wow.
was so excited about. Yes. And so that included the day he went into prison, where he was convicted. So the
Okay.
prison is in St. Louis, but he was convicted in Kansas City. So I
Okay.
was able to find where he was convicted, and then find it also said for your head to see maybe how smart you were, but also so they could identify you and they could tell you from the other, 5'7" guys who look just like you who are also in the prison, and they'd measure all your body parts, your wingspan, how long your legs were. So
Mhm.
I know Roscoe's size very well. He was 5'7". He had light brown hair, a medium sallow complexion. He had blue eyes, and he had a scar on his torso, on one of his thumbs, and on his forehead and the bridge of his nose. So I
Mm.
almost wonder if he like how did was it straight down the
Yeah. It sounds like he may have had some trouble.
yeah, he may have gotten in some fights or accidents, but what we kind of know about him, we sort of suspect that he got into fights. So
Actually, we're going to take a short break, so we'll take a pause here. If you're enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the series to keep new episodes coming. There are count them, 5 different ways that you can support the Black Sheep Family History podcast and YouTube video series. Number 1, first and foremost, subscribe to my channel, Black Sheep Family History on YouTube, and turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified when new episodes come out. I drop new episodes on hump days with a new story to get you through the rest of the week. Educational extras hosted by Jane will drop on Fridays. Number 2, tell your friends. The easiest way to do that is to share this video on Facebook with a note telling your friends it's awesome. And if you happen to be talking to a friend in real life, I'm not sure that actually happens anymore, but if it does, just say, hey, there's this new podcast and YouTube video series called Black Sheep Family History. It's really cool. You should check it out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Number 3, buy me a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com and search for Black Sheep Family History, or look for the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes and buy me a coffee. I actually drink tea, which is priced much more economically, so feel free to buy me too. Number 4, join my Black Sheep Society. For just $5 per month, you can get bonus Black Sheep Society content each week, additional mini Black Sheep stories, and other content that can help you find the Black Sheep in your family tree. Look for a link to the Black Sheep Society in the show notes. And last is number 5, rate and review this video and drop me a comment or any suggestions in the comments. In particular, let me know what you think of Jane. Is she cool or is she creepy? Let me know in the comments. Okay, we're back. So what happened next?
So Roscoe, he served about the same amount of time as everybody else did. I think he like 7/12ths time. So basically, it sounds like good behavior type of thing. Even though he did stay an extra week, which I've been interested in, like he get in a fight or something where he had to stay an extra week. A few more people had to as well. So I don't know kind of what was going on there. I
Good
asked for the
behavior, but not that good.
yeah, yeah, it's sort of good behavior. Come on, Roscoe. I tried to order his commutation records because he got commuted by the governor. That's what his sentence was. I think it was still kind of good behavior. I need to like really look into the legalities here, but the commutation records were not available. They looked for him. They said no, he's just not in there. And actually, also, the prison has a set of about 120 mug shots, glass plate mug shots from that
Wow.
area. And but Roscoe wasn't in there either. So again, Roscoe, he's just eluding me, places where he
Yeah.
should be. He
Right.
doesn't exist. So he got out of prison, as far as I know. And oh my gosh, I hope I'm saying, I think it was 1918. It might have been 1919. Let's not hold me to that. But he left the prison doors and I never found him in a single record ever again.
Wow. But then came a DNA match.
Yes. So this was amazing. Now, Roscoe, this has been years now that I got interested in Roscoe. I kind of did everything I thought I could on him. And then just, well, hopefully something will come back up in the future. And as we all know how it goes in genealogy, something came back up. Uh, I found a DNA match who lives in that same county in Arkansas where Roscoe was from. And I don't even remember what I was emailing him about, but I think Roscoe came up. And I just, I'll say, hey, do you know what happened to Roscoe? Because I had also emailed some other people at this point, and they all sort of had theories on what had happened to Roscoe. Apparently, he was just a missing person. Somebody thought he became the sheriff somewhere in Oklahoma. I was like, that sounds pretty suspicious to me. Then I found who they were talking about, and that was not the same. His name was Roscoe West, but he was not our
Not the
Roscoe
same
West.
one.
Yeah, not the same guy.
Okay.
So this DNA match, though, he's an older gentleman, very very nice, very smart, very good historical researcher, and he wrote me back. He's like, "Oh yeah, Roscoe, he was involved in that horrible incident in 1913," and then he hit send on that email. The audacity, because then
Oh no.
I had to write back and say, "Excuse me,
What
what?"
horrible incident?
Yes. Like, what horrible incident in 1913? You can't leave a genealogist hanging like this. You can't do it. So I think he got back to me maybe the next day. It wasn't very long. It was long enough for me to really, get hyped up about it. Come to find out, Roscoe's first cousin's daughter, so I guess his first cousin once removed, was murdered in 1913 in
Oh,
Logan County, Arkansas, where Roscoe lived. And it was horrible. And it was kind of, she was 19. And when you hear about a young girl murdered in that time, you think about the old murder ballads and things like that. This was kind of that story where she had a sweetheart. They would go to a place called the Pines and spend some alone time together. And apparently she got pregnant and
mhm.
he killed her and just wrapped her body in telephone wire and threw her in a well and then threw rocks on top of that, just very premeditatedly. Now I will say he was convicted, so that's why I'm saying he killed her. Otherwise I would say he allegedly killed her.
And how did you find out about this? Was it from newspaper articles or
DNA match,
okay.
he had grown up
Okay.
with this story, and
I'm
they
sorry, say that again?
oh, the DNA match had grown up with this story. He
Oh, okay.
story his whole life.
Oh,
He was
wow.
descended from her, one of her brothers. So this
Okay.
is his, I think, great aunt.
Okay.
Yeah, so and he did a
Wow.
lot of research on it, and it turns out he had gotten involved with the historical society there a long time ago, but back when records were still those records were still a little less degraded, let's say,
Okay.
he had gone to the courthouse and made transcriptions of the trial transcripts that were there, which
Wow.
amazing. Now, this was appealed. So it was the appeal transcriptions that are available, but the appeal, of course, goes over everything that had happened in the original trial. And but
Right.
he had also found different things like, the arrest warrant for the guy, and he found even some coins that had been in somebody's pocket. They were in the file at the courthouse. And he
Wow.
said, yeah, he opened it up and just some coins fell out, which, wow, what a dream for a
Oh my goodness.
genealogist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what your next question is going to be.
Yeah. How is Roscoe involved?
Yes, exactly. Like, how is Roscoe here? And of course, I was not at all surprised to see Roscoe's name all over this court case, which was like I had no idea any of this happened. As far as I knew, Roscoe had went to Oklahoma, married his girlfriend, left her, went to prison, and disappeared into out in the Wild West somewhere.
Right.
But no, there's more to Roscoe's story. So Roscoe is, he's a West boy. He's young. He's 27. Her father, the murder victim's father, swears out a warrant for seduction for Arthur Tillman. So it turns out what had happened is the father had found a note pinned to the girl's pillow saying that she had run off and she was running off with Arthur Tillman. And this is before, of course, that they knew that she had actually been murdered. They had not found her body yet. So
Okay.
he swears out this warrant for seduction, and the constable to serve that warrant is Roscoe West. And so I literally have a copy of the warrant that says Roscoe West is going to go and
Wow.
find this guy, Arthur Tillman, and just, I guess, bring him back to town for seduction. I think
Okay.
that maybe that was the original intent,
Okay.
but the
It
court
seems
record,
odd to me that a guy like Roscoe could be a constable.
yeah, I thought so too. So, but he did leave his wife
Yeah.
back home.
Right.
Well, whatever. Now he's in Arkansas. We're gonna
Okay.
whole new start
Gotcha.
out here. So yes, he's the constable. So he goes and he finds Arthur Tillman. Arthur Tillman is somewhere at the state line. I can't remember. I don't think I ever knew if it was at the Oklahoma state line or the Missouri state line, but he's somewhere. So Roscoe finds him and say, hey Arthur, all right, we got you. It's nighttime. Arthur's at a buddy's house, so Roscoe goes in. He's like, "Well, I'm staying the night, obviously, and then tomorrow we're going to go back. I'm going to bring you back to town, and you're
Okay.
going to answer for this." He says, "Or," and the theory here is that her father put him up to this. Roscoe said, "Or you can give me $50 to deal with all this, and then you can just cross the river tomorrow." So Roscoe, maybe not a very good constable, or maybe he was the kind of constable that her father wanted him to be and was just trying to get some money. Now, we can only speculate the money could have been for childcare. It could have been for, a rudimentary abortion at the time. I mean,
Right.
we
Right.
really don't know. And then that court testimony later, they speculated as well. So I'm not the only one speculating there.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so what happened when so Roscoe tried to shake down Tillman for $50
Yeah.
to and maybe to give it to his to the murder victim's dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
that to me, that seems like the plan the whole
Yeah.
time. I think that was the plan. It
Right.
wasn't really go arrest him and bring him back. Like, what do you need him for? $50 though would be great.
Right. Right.
There,
Crazy.
I know.
But then did Tillman give him the $50?
We're not sure because
Okay.
Tillman did though give him a picture of a beautiful girl that he was writing a letter to in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And so apparently though, Roscoe was looking at the picture of the beautiful girl, and Arthur took that time to escape outside and escape. So Roscoe did not have Arthur in custody for very long.
That's crazy. Wow.
And it's kind of funny too when you think that later Roscoe went and married a girl in Oklahoma, and you wonder like, I wonder if he just thought, yeah, Oklahoma girls were very beautiful, or after seeing that picture, and he just wanted to go check out the Oklahoma ladies for himself.
Gotcha. That's funny. And so then did Tillman eventually go to trial?
He escaped. I think that was not the first time or that was the first time he escaped, but he escaped again. He jumped off a
Okay.
train at some point. He was
Okay.
not going down for this, and he did go to trial, and that's thankfully why we have these transcripts, because that was his appeal, because he was sentenced to death. He was found guilty and sentenced to death for the murder of Jenny Stevenson. That was her name.
Okay.
And then, of course, he appealed because he didn't want to be sentenced to death. He's a young man. He's handsome. You can find his pictures online. And but he was again found guilty, and yes, he was hanged at the gallows and the scaffold there, and people
Wow.
standing around on the day of his hanging. And that turned out to be the last hanging in Arkansas.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So so he went to trial and there's a trial aspect of this story, right?
Yes. So believe it or not, Roscoe, well, of course, I mean, he was the constable, so he had to testify in
Yeah.
court. And so he's all over those trial transcripts, which I was just so happy because I've been wondering about this guy for years now. And all of a sudden, I find his actual words in a trial transcript.
Wow.
And something kind of funny too, my cousin, the DNA match, he had the one who had done all this research, he wrote a book about this. And for whatever reason, my copy of the book, the printing had gotten messed up and everything is backwards. So I'm having to go through and read this backwards. And I was like, this is just Roscoe again, not wanting me to know what's going on with him. I'm getting this little weird from beyond the grave, like not
Wow.
wanting me to learn about him. But whatever, I can read backwards if I want. If I want to. So I did that. And this was just the craziest story. So, of course, he tells us this story. He's the one that tells us that he got fascinated by the picture of the girl from Oklahoma and let Arthur Tillman escape.
Okay.
And then of course, he's cross-examined by Tillman's defense attorney. And the defense attorney asked him, and I could not believe this. He's like, so Roscoe, what was your mental state at the time? And Roscoe, he's like, I was fine. Or oh, he's whatever. And then the defense attorney says, well, isn't it true that you were in the state asylum previously? And the whole courtroom erupts because the judge has to tell everybody to be quiet. And that is in the transcript.
Wow.
So then Roscoe's like, well, yes. But then Roscoe's attorney, when it's his turn again, he comes up and I imagine this guy with thumbs under his suspenders, Clarence Darrow. And he says, well, you know who else was in a mental asylum? Abraham Lincoln. And he became the president. And then everybody clapped because, again, the judge had to hush everybody up. I
That's
I
crazy.
cannot believe that Roscoe was in the middle of a courtroom or I don't know if it was a standing ovation, but courtroom drama and mess. That was just
Wow.
amazing to me.
And that was all in that was the clapping and everything was in the transcript then.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
the judge hushing everybody.
Oh, that's hilarious.
If you can find
That's
an appeal court transcript, you're going to get some good stuff sometime.
wow.
But he said that
That's
this now is disintegrated. Like apparently it was in very bad shape. He transcribed it rather than,
okay. And
and this
he
was,
got it from the local,
I think he got it from the state.
from the state
Yeah.
archives.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know that. I have it in my research log where he originally got it from. But yeah, I
Right.
believe he got it from the state because it was the state, it was an appeal up to the state court.
Wow. That's a crazy story. That's a great story.
Thank you.
Now, do you think Roscoe had other children other than the one that your cousin is descended from?
Well, kind of, yeah. That was another thing that I found later. So of course I was like, well, let me check on Clyde because you never know.
Yep.
Roscoe could have went back to Clyde. He says, "Oh man, I'm sorry about that. I go back to my first wife. Maybe don't tell her everything that happened in Arkansas and Oklahoma." So I found her in 1920. She was now living in Atlanta, which is a lot of people went down there to work in factories and things like that around that time. It was just a more bustling and happening place than Canton, which was a much more rural area. And she was living with a young boy, age 10, who was her nephew and listed as her nephew in the census. It was just the two of them. But the interesting thing is, I looked and said, well, who is this nephew? It's not one of Roscoe's nieces and nephews. I know all of them. And then I looked, and she only has one brother, and the brother and his wife never had any children.
Hmm.
Uh, the census in 1910 says, she had zero children, zero living. And then
Right.
Clyde had zero children, zero living. And then the brother and his wife, who were kind of well-to-do, who's a minister, they were still living in Cherokee County at the time. So why would their child be living with Clyde, a single woman in Atlanta? That doesn't make sense. So
Right.
I almost think Alexander is perhaps Roscoe's son. And Roscoe would have left right around the time that he was conceived if he left
Hmm.
between 1908 and 1910, and that child was 10 in 1920. So there may be another guy out here. Now, I have
Okay.
not found them though in 1930 or beyond. So I don't know what happened to Clyde and Alexander. They may have died.
Right. Wow. Who knows? Maybe a DNA match would come up.
Oh, I would be so pleased.
That would be crazy. Do you have other loose ends you have to tie up?
There's one thing I want to order. So I did email the court where he was convicted, and I said, "Hey, is there anything about his trial or convicted of false pretenses?" And they said he pled guilty, so there's nothing, there's just a docket. But I'm probably going to still order just to see if I can get them to send me the docket page to see if he was maybe convicted with anybody else. Try to find some fans. I tried to look and see if there was anybody who came into prison with him on the same day, things like that. Just
Right.
try to find anybody else that was convicted of false pretenses in the area. Couldn't really find anything. So right now, I'm just trying to find fans. Like maybe who was he running around with? Because
Right.
I kind of know what all his siblings were doing and cousins,
Right.
and they weren't, they weren't they weren't like Roscoe. We'll just say that. They were a little bit more respectable.
Right. And you probably would want any records from the insane asylum.
Yes, that's the other thing. The lunacy records, I
Yeah,
have not even tried because they're so hard to shake out of people. They generally
right.
don't lunacy records out, but I just need to. I had planned, and so this is me justifying myself. I had planned to go there to Northwest Arkansas, and then just the things got in the way, work got busy, and I still haven't went up there. I live in Georgia, so it's a pretty long
Yeah,
drive. It's about a 10-hour drive for me to go up there. But I think I want to just go up there in person because a lot of times you can catch a lot more flies if you're standing right in front of people than if you're writing an email. It's very easy to ignore you or very
yeah,
easy to tell you no. But if you're there, maybe you've got your cousin DNA match and you brought him with you. It would
right.
be a different story. So yeah, I'm still going to try to do that.
That sounds great. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing Roscoe's story with us. It's going to be a great episode.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Janet. This has been really fun. I cannot wait to listen to this podcast because I love black sheep.
Thank you. So I want to thank Jennifer Dunn of Coppermine Genealogy again for that terrific interview. I was thinking some more about what she talked about, and in particular, the comment that the lawyer in that case made that Abe Lincoln had been in an asylum. And so I did some research on that, and that's not true. He was not in an asylum. So I think the lawyer was playing a little fast and loose with the facts there, but that's been known to happen. And it's interesting that Abe Lincoln gets, well, it's not that surprising, but Abe Lincoln gets all that applause at that point. In any case, now it is time for Jane to introduce the topic of our educational extra this week. Jane, what do you got for us? Today I'm introducing this week's Black Sheep Educational Extra, the history of asylums and the treatment of mental illness in America. Thanks for watching Black Sheep Family History, stories of our not-so-illustrious ancestors and how to find them. Remember to subscribe to the Black Sheep Family History channel on YouTube, and remember all the other ways that you can support this podcast and video series to keep these episodes coming. And if you have a Black Sheep story you'd like to share, or you'd like me to share, or if you need research help, drop me a note at janet@blacksheepfamhist.com. See you next time. Black Sheep Family History is produced, edited, and narrated by me, Janet Hall Werner. YouTube videos are edited with DaVinci Resolve and Shotcut. The podcast is edited with Audacity. The Black Sheep Family History logo was designed by my daughter, Katie Werner, with a sheep created by ChatGPT. Jane was created by ChatGPT and is animated with D-ID. Educational extras are narrated by me, Janet Hall Werner, with assistance from a voice clone from 11 Labs. Music is created using Suno AI. Video clips, where they exist, are created using Google Gemini. Genealogical research is conducted by Black Sheep Family History guests, and educational extras are researched by me, Janet Hall Werner, with assistance from AI tools ChatGPT and Perplexity AI. Sign up for the Black Sheep Society to receive bonus Black Sheep content to help you discover the Black Sheep in your family tree. And note that sheep is both singular and plural, meaning you may have more than one. Consider supporting the series by making a contribution through buymeacoffee.com. Subscribe to our channel, Black Sheep Family History, on YouTube, and search for Black Sheep Family History wherever you get your podcasts, and follow the show.